Hey, what's up? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of SimplyPodLogical, a Simply Nailogical podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Holo Taco. Do you have boring nails?
Just add a Holo Taco.
And it's not a problem anymore.
Or a multi-chrome polish.
Yeah, check out www.holotaco.com to check out the new multi-chrome collection.
What's your favorite shade in the collection, Ben?
Cat's Evasion, I think.
Why is that, sir?
Because I like the original name for that polish that some people didn't like. But thank you to everyone. Cristine, you just launched the new Holo Taco multi-chrome collection. Very well received. We have more collection boxes still. We're doing a better job of forecasting demand these days. So it should still be available the time this goes up. So thank you to everyone who's already bought. And if you're interested in checking it out, www.holotaco.com.
It's okay. The holo just gets you sometimes. It makes you speechless. The multi-chrome, the shift, I just can't help but stare at my nails. I'm just glad that I can finally show you guys this. And I know you guys have seen this on the podcast before. You've spotted it with your eagle eyes. But now it's not a secret anymore.
Eagle eyes. Cristine always spills the beans on
just
future
let me
collections.
Let me have fun.
All right, so today we're going to argue about the differences between glitter and shimmer.
I can't wait. I've prepared my argument. I now know that I meant mica was the word I was looking for.
Okay, let's not revisit this. I'm just kidding. We're not going to get into it. It's like the worst fight we've ever had, you know? I don't want to...
Yeah, we argued on the internet. Look at that, guys.
Our relationship is more important than the difference between glitter and mica and shimmer and flakes.
Got pretty heated. I told you were wrong.
Anyway, today, for real, we're going to be taking questions from fan accounts. So whenever we do a podcast, you might see some names that are familiar, like Simply Nailogical, Cristine's Charm, Holo Cristine, Simply Ben Logical, Holo Queen 5000. There's all these names. And these are a lot of fan accounts, people who really like you. They mostly exist on Instagram, these accounts, I think. And they post,
Twitter.
And they engage with your content. They post memes of your face. So we thought it might just be fun to give the opportunity to those people to ask whatever they wanted. So we got a bunch of questions about what it's like to have fans on the internet, what we think of conventions, YouTube merch, sort of questions along those lines.
Yeah, we wanted to give you guys the floor because we appreciate everything you guys do and just like honestly make me smile, make me laugh. That's my favorite part about fan accounts. I mean, we'll get into this, but just
Cristine likes the memes, and I just think it's fun. Like I like the idea that there's just this kind of subculture or community of people out there who just have made accounts about liking you, and I get the impression a lot of these people have just kind of become friends with each other. So I like that aspect
it's like anyone with mutual interests. If you can find people who share the same interests, you can make a club or a group, and it's kind of fun to talk about it. Like maybe it's after school sports or certain types of art, or YouTubers you like. So there's fan accounts about all sorts of things. Anyway,
let's just hop into it then. So first question from Simply's Little Sock.
Which sock? My right one or my left one?
What was your reaction when you realized that people have fan accounts about you? So just starting off broadly, how do you feel about the fact that these accounts even exist?
I'm trying to remember the first time I recall like seeing this and being like, what is going on? It was years ago, probably pre-Polish Mountain when it had just started. And I just thought it was really sweet. And it was always very, very positive. People were reposting pictures of me, but then like making them funnier or adding much better captions or edits to it than like I thought to do. Okay. So they'd take like a freeze frame of my face and just add like some hilarious caption on top of it that made it way more relatable and it made me laugh, and that was kind of my first impression or introduction to fan accounts.
I think the first time I remember thinking there were like people who really idolized you is I remember we came across someone had a Simply Nailogical themed birthday party. Luna I want to say. Do you remember this?
Yep.
And it's kind of like this weird sort of humbling feeling, like it's hard to wrap your head around the fact that someone might look up to you so much that they would theme their 13th birthday party around you,
She
right?
had a Holo themed birthday party. She posted the video on YouTube. I remember she had like Holo plates and there were signs and a cake that said Holo or something.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. And we met her a few times actually at VidCon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've met her parents or one of her parents anyways.
Sure.
But yeah, it was very positive, very sweet, and it's so fun. And like I think very highly of my fans and the fact that they're just so kind and they just want to love, you know, the Holo or the socks or the tea like I do, or cats.
Actually, that's a good point, because I think what I've noticed about fan accounts of you is it's not just all about you. It's a lot about like the shared interest of like tea or oats or just anything holographic, right?
Yeah, good point. Because I think some people's answer to this question, and I don't mean me, but just maybe influencers in general, maybe find it a little weird that there's other people perhaps emulating everything they do, like copying their style or just trying to replicate what they do. Like maybe if Kylie Jenner has fan accounts, I don't know this, I actually haven't seen Kylie Jenner fan accounts, but if I imagined them, it might be people, you know, trying to be exactly like her.
Yeah.
Whereas when I think of my fan accounts, it more just seems like people just making fun of things or sharing common interests, including me, or sharing common interests like tea, or making edits of Menchie and Zyler, or just like stuff like that that isn't just about trying to look and behave like me, if that makes sense.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I think it's just my impression is that a lot of these fan accounts are younger women, maybe like teenage girl age type thing.
There's some guys too, some boys. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Shout out.
I guess it made me think like we didn't grow up with social media the same way kids now are growing up with social media, right?
Right.
But like we would have had like posters of people up on our walls, or like people we looked up to who were kind of like celebrities. So I guess it's just not that different to have fan accounts these days, because it's so easy just to make an Instagram account, put someone else as your avatar, and just that could be like your second or third or fifth account.
Yeah.
Just to post things just about that one interest you have, right?
Like I have a secret Twitter account just for oats.
That's right,
I'm a
Christy.
fan of oats.
You have an oat fan account. What is it? Simply's Oats or something? I'm not following.
Simply
it.
Oats, I think, on Twitter. Oh, it's not a secret anymore. But I'll just add, like, my experience being a fan of things growing up was I loved the Backstreet Boys so much that when we had those J14 printed magazines, I would cut out their faces and stick them in a collage book. Like, that's what I did. And that was my fandom, I guess, like the Backstreet Boys. I even had a t-shirt that said the Cat Street Boys, and it was the Backstreet Boys as cats.
Like they were illustrated
as cats. Yeah, and I went to their concert wearing it.
Do you still have that shirt? Because that sounds amazing.
I don't think it would fit anymore.
If anyone can find a Cat Street Boys shirt, let us know.
But yeah, I think it's all in good fun. So I've done it. We all do it. We're all fans of something. What are you a fan of, Ben?
I'm a fan of you. I'm Christine's
stop.
number one. I'm your only fan.
You know what? All the fan accounts here are Ben.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
We just made it up. Yeah. I'm Simply Logical.
I believe it.
All right. Next question from Simply Nailogical. Have you ever created a fake fan account for yourself? Would you consider doing it for a video?
A fake fan. What would I do on my fake fan account? No, the answer is no. I haven't made one. But what would I do on it? Like, I'm not that clever.
I think you would need more like self-esteem, because you would just be talking about how much you like yourself, right?
I could make fun of myself.
You could.
That might go over well. I might be good at that one.
It's actually funny. Like, there is probably a video idea in this,
Of
like going
making a fan
undercover.
account.
Isn't there some publication has put out videos of like going undercover on like Reddit or something and answering questions as celebrities, but like the people you're responding to don't know it's actually you?
So what would be my goal? To talk to other people in the Simply fandom and just pretend I'm just some other person? You know what I mean?
Maybe we should just leave a little mystery here, and just the next time they're talking to
You
a random
never
fan
know who
account,
you're
it
talking
might just
to.
be Christine. From Simply Bentendo. Is it weird to have fan pages? I usually consider myself a page for the Holo community because I find it strange. So yeah, we kind of touched on this already, right? These people are sort of fans of the things you're fans of, your more shared interests, rather than just being all about you and emulating you.
Yeah, like Holo, I think is one major shared interest we all have. We love Holo. We hate the fake Holo, you know, join forces.
I guess there is a degree to which it would be strange to like we just touched on, like it's normal to have like idols or people you look up to, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I do wonder if other creators, maybe more than you, have this experience of having fans that are a little too attached to them emotionally. I think that's possible, right? Because I don't think it's healthy to be so invested in someone else that you're like, that's your defining characteristic. You know what I mean?
I think as long as it's a positive thing for you, and it's totally fine to, look up to someone and then be your role model, or for you to like their interests or be inspired by them. Like I've done that my whole life. I've been inspired by others or influenced by people. It's just, yeah, I guess there is a fine line, and I have not personally felt that way at all with any fan accounts that I've seen. It's all been positive, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But I also know that maybe I just don't really attract as much negative attention, or the types of fan accounts that might try and tear me down. So I guess it really depends, and I don't have experience with being in that position. But I can imagine that for some influencers, there might be some accounts about them that make them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That are maybe a little bit stalkery-ish, or tracking down their houses, or like posting their whereabouts all the time. I've kind of seen that, and that's what the paparazzi does a lot of. So sure. I guess maybe there's not much difference there. But yeah, it's possible to make an influencer or a celebrity feel uncomfortable with an account that's 100% about them, depending on the type of content that's posted.
Yeah. But that's not your experience.
Not at all. Yeah. No.
All right, from Holo Taco Predictions.
I want to know what's on their page now. Let's go.
Were there any Cristine hate pages that you have seen?
Hate pages.
Have you ever come across a hate page?
Like I just kind of said, that everything's been extremely positive ever since the beginning. But there was this one account that is so funny to me. It was recent, in like the past 6 months, maybe.
Yeah.
It was an account about how Safiya and I weren't real friends.
I remember.
Yeah. So I forget the account name. I'm pretty sure they've deleted it by now. But it was like Cristine and Safiya hater or something.
Yeah.
And the bio was Cristine and Simply Nailogical and Safiya's friendship is fake AF. So I saw it because other fan accounts were tweeting it or sharing it at me, and like a lot of them were telling me about how bad this person was. So I was like, what the heck's going on? So I go and look at it, and I'm like, oh my god, there is an account about how me and Safiya aren't real friends, and they're like documenting things and trying to explain why we weren't real friends in this shoot or this video. So I screenshotted it and sent it to Safiya.
Oh yeah.
And I said, bitch, what the fuck?
We were exposed.
Yeah. So she laughed, I laughed, and it didn't hurt me at all. Like I actually spent a good few minutes laughing at the fact that this exists.
It's pretty strange that someone may have made it. I mean, it's probably just some kid somewhere.
Yeah.
It is pretty funny that other people like came to your defense though to tell them that that was bad or wrong or whatever.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, but I also just want people out there, like whenever you're trying to defend me for something, especially like this, which I don't think is actually harmful, you kind of need to understand where that person is coming from. Maybe they're really bored or upset about other things in their life. And I would just encourage people to not be mean, when they're trying to tell others, like, don't do that. You're hurting Cristine's feelings. Like, thank you for caring about me, but my feelings weren't hurt. Like, I'm fine. I laughed. And I just hope that whoever made that account finds some inner peace, or finds people that they love and makes accounts about them instead.
Yeah, like there are other creators who I think have a lot of hate accounts. And just the idea of making an account to express your dislike of someone, like people aren't above criticism, and even specifically the criticism of YouTubers pretending to be friends for views. Yeah. That totally happens. So I'm totally open to someone making that criticism if they suspect it's happening. It's not the case with you and Saf, but
yeah.
But like the idea of making accounts dedicated to disliking people online just seems like a kind of pretty sad thing to me.
Yeah, and I think so too. And like I've said, I'm fortunate to not really see that about myself, but I have seen that about other influencers. And it's really sad. And like you just said, it doesn't mean that no one should criticize an influencer, because maybe they made mistakes and there is some merit to the criticism or the discourse about what they did and what they need to do to make it right, let's say. But making whole accounts and like novels and stories about all these people just seems like a misplaced use of energy, I think. And so I would encourage people to use, your platforms or make accounts about stuff that you want to put your energy towards, that stuff that's positive and good and is going to have a good impact in your life. Because I just can't believe that making hate accounts about people is what is making you happy.
Yeah.
Like maybe you feel a temporary sense of like, I gotcha, or like revenge in some weird way, even though you've probably never met the person you're making this account about and never will in your life. But that's not a real meaningful, positive thing to have in your life in the long term.
Yeah, totally agree. From Simply Bentendo, unlike many people with similar follower amounts, you guys are very active with fan pages. How?
Because I want to talk to you guys.
Do you think this is true? Do you think you engage, like you have 7 million subscribers, something like that? Mm-hmm. I guess there is a point at which when you have such a large audience, it is much harder to actually engage with them at a certain point. Mm-hmm. And we sort of romanticize, like we occasionally reminisce about early on when you were able to, when you first started getting fan mail, I don't know if people know this, you used to send letters back to people.
Physical letters.
Like really early on.
I know.
And you used to respond to some emails. And then it gets to the point where your audience is a size where that is just literally impossible to do.
I used to write a personalized letter back to people. And I remember saying at the time, like, if people took the time out of the day to write me a letter and send it to my P.O. box, this was 4 years ago, that I was going to do the same. Yeah. So one night I remember spreading out all the letters I had to do, and there was like 40 or 50 of them, and they just covered the whole kitchen floor because I was trying to organize them to put them each in their own letter. And I was just like, I can't physically like do this anymore because it just takes so much time. So I switched to just responding to emails. And I remember on my work break at StatsCan over lunch, I would go into one of the break small rooms and just reply to fan emails for an hour.
That's great.
Yeah. And I would try to get every single one. Like I didn't want to miss one, and it bothered me if I was behind. But then over time, as I just get hundreds and hundreds of emails, I physically like could not do it anymore.
Yeah. And when it gets to the point where you can't, then you have to start thinking about like, is it fair to reply to any if I can't reply to all of them? And then at a certain point, it's almost like emotionally, is it fair to you to take this baggage? Because I remember like sometimes people would just unload their issues on you. And as much as it's humbling and flattering that they're saying that you really helped them maybe through a hard time in your life, to get a bunch of emails of people sort of unloading that baggage on you is putting you in a bit of a weird position too, I think. Yeah,
there was some of that, and I felt incredibly bad, and like I couldn't help, and even a reply from me, I don't even know if that was the best thing for that person, honestly, based on what they were saying. So it was hard, but from the very beginning, I always wanted to engage with fans, and like I always felt like, well, they wrote me, so I got to write them back. And then I was like kind of obsessively trying to make sure I always did that. And then with time, I realized it was just impossible. Mm-hmm. But fast forwarding to now, I really like just engaging with you guys. Like I'm on Twitter all the time, and I think Twitter is where I'm most because that's where I have the smallest audience. I have like 600,000 or something followers there.
Yeah, so small.
No, but
that's where it's most likely
YouTube,
that you'll actually see something.
Exactly.
Right?
So compared to YouTube and Instagram, it's easier to manage because there's less people coming at me all at once. So I try and reply to as many tweets as I can. I like tweets all the time. On Instagram, I do see people's stories and like I'll repost them. And the fan accounts on Instagram are amazing. I follow some, and then some just like pop up in my feed. And recently, actually, I really been enjoying this one. Perfectly Pinky.
Oh, yeah. I saw this.
She's been, since quarantine began, this is amazing. She's been adding another layer of nail polish for every day of quarantine. Yeah. She's almost at day 200.
Do you think she thought this would last this long?
I don't think so. But she is so sweet and so funny. And I found her account a few months ago. And it's just amazing to watch the growth of the Polish Mountain and the fact that she is living with this on her finger and has been for almost 200 days.
That's what I don't understand. To go months now of having this mound of nail polish on her nail. I don't know how she's doing it.
The dedication. It's amazing.
That's funny. Is she ending it soon? Didn't you were talking
Yeah,
to
so
her,
she
right?
DM'd me and asked for, this is so sweet, for advice on how to end it because she didn't want to like upset people that it was over. And I'm like, girl, you need to take that mountain off. Like, it's okay. But just like maybe peel it off so we can all see the satisfaction.
Yeah, as long as you share taking
Yeah,
it
so
off, right?
follow Perfectly Pinky. I think there's a period in the middle. I'll put it up on the screen.
Okay. Next question from OK Christine. Why did you cancel your merch? I'm assuming it has to do with Holo Taco.
The short answer is yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Do we want to give a brief history of Simply Nailogical merch here?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, like, yeah, when you got big in 2016, all of a sudden you're getting all sorts of emails from merch companies asking if you wanted to do merch, right? And that kind of just like in 2016 YouTube, that was just, I think, the normal thing to do. Oh, you got big on YouTube, you should sell branded t-shirts. And I remember we kind of thought about it and we were seeing a lot of subscribers asking for merch. So we were like, maybe we'll do this if we can find someone who is willing to print like holographic foil on t-shirts. So I remember we spent a while just talking to different vendors, trying to find someone who was willing to put holographic anything on a t-shirt. And that was a bit of a struggle in and of itself. So I remember we did that because there was like a lot of fan demand for it. And then after that, almost all the merch we did through these people was like just to raise money for cat charities, essentially,
Menchie and
right?
Zyler merch, yeah.
There's a lot of Menchie and Zyler designs that we had some artist come up with. And yeah, we would donate a lot of the money to cat charities. And then, yeah, as Holo Taco started getting closer, I think we realized, first of all, like there's only so much energy you can put into so many things, right? So clearly the nail polish line was going to be your new priority outside of YouTube. And I think we also sort of realized that the merch sort of scene for YouTubers has really changed in the last few years. And a lot of people have really raised the bar in terms of like, we talked briefly about Teddy Fresh last week. And the fact that YouTubers now, you know, some of them have done a really good job of like fashion lines or clothing lines that are like clearly custom and not just taking like some Gildan hoodie and just printing a screen print on it, right? So I think that bar has been raised, and that is a good thing. You know, customers of YouTubers should expect the merch to be good and not just some blank hoodie that someone has slapped a name on or something
And
like
that
that.
they're overcharging by like $30.
Yeah, and that was the biggest issue I think we had over the years was like no one's going to care about your fan base as much as you do. And these third-party merch companies, like some of them are better than others and they care. And we had a good relationship with the one we worked with. But at the end of the day, they were mostly interested in making money and we weren't interested in marking up sweatshirts that much. Because I remember we were constantly being encouraged to be like, you could sell this hoodie for $40 or more. And we were like, we know how much it costs, and we just didn't want to we didn't want to charge too much for it.
We just
either,
wanted
right?
fair, reasonable prices. And it was frustrating, I remember, looking at other YouTubers who might have been using the same people we were using or using blanks, like the hoodie itself before printing something on it, that were pretty much the same as what we were using, and they were charging like $20 more.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair to them, that's
just what they
that's what people are
chose.
willing to pay for
Yeah.
it, right? We're not, you know, people can spend their money how they want to spend it, but we always just felt weird about that. If we were to do merch now, and we do see people suggesting merch, I think we would only do it if we brought it completely in-house. And even potentially maybe Holo Taco merch is something we could see in the
I know,
future.
that's very highly requested.
It is.
And let me just say, I don't think people just want Holo Taco merch just because they like are super fans and they just sorry, there's like a tea leaf in my throat. Like, we don't just want to slap Holo Taco on everything because, like, we know we can sell t-shirts. Yeah. I think people also want Holo Taco merch because there are people out there who say that they can't wear nail polish or they don't wear nail polish, but they would love to wear, like, some Holo Taco gear or just have something else, which I found interesting because I was like, oh, I, like, didn't really think about it that way. So that's also one reason why I think it would be really cool to do it. Yeah. But if we do it, it will be done well. I think, and really, like, I'll be very picky with it, especially if it's Holo Taco, because it's got to align with my, 100% nail polish line.
Yeah, so like clearly polish is the priority, and as like everything gets sort of settled down and the processes really get sort of perfected there, then maybe down the road we can shift our attention to adding merch or something to the Holo Taco brand.
Yeah.
I mean, comment down below if that's something that would interest
and
you,
comment
right?
down below what kinds of merch maybe you'd like to see. And I don't just mean like t-shirts or hoodies, but maybe there's like hats or cat ears or other types of merch.
All right, next question from Christine's Cup of Tea.
Ooh.
How did you meet Safiya?
Ooh,
Look,
Safiya.
another Safiya reference here. How did you meet Safiya?
Cup of tea. Funny story, Safiya and I first met in the DMs. This was a while back, before she had her own YouTube channel, and she was working for an unnamed other company.
Sure.
We shall not name. I think I remember her tweeting that she wanted my Holo merch, speaking of merch. And I was like, really? Like, I didn't know that she watched my channel, and I'd seen her in some videos before. So I DM'd her and said, yeah, I'll send you some. And that was the beginning of our friendship. No, but we didn't actually become friends just in that exchange. Like, we talked a bit, and then she was going to become like her own channel. So there was way more like to talk about there. And then we actually met at VidCon. I think it was 2017. And I met her backstage with Tyler.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'd already been talking and texting for some time. So I already felt like I kind of knew her.
And I think we may have filmed something
We did.
around that time, right? That would have been like the really expensive manicure video on your channel.
Yeah.
And then with her, where you went around LA dressed up in that like holographic spandex clothing. Was that the first thing we did?
Wearing Holo for a day. That was Safiya's video concept. And we wore like Holo, which was made of plastic essentially. And it was so hot in LA. And we were out there in the sun for hours just getting a bunch of different shots. So my memory of that was like really fun because we were running around and people were looking at us and we were like skipping and dancing for the shots, but also just sweat constantly dripping down my back. And I'm like going like this, trying to hide it.
It was one of those things like, you know how they say like new couples, once you go on vacation with someone, that's like sort of a big moment. Like you actually learn what it's like to be someone when you like go away. Like it's a make or break thing. I feel like before we filmed that video, you guys kind of knew each other and were friendly, but weren't really friends. But then you like went through that experience. And I think we realized by the end of it, like we were going to come out of that either hating them or really liking them. And I think we were friends by the time that day was over.
So when you're YouTubers, once you film a video together, then you really get to know someone. And you know what? That's true.
You know what I mean? Like people, often there's this inclination, like you barely know someone, but you kind of get along. You feel like your content works together and you just decide to film a video together. And you might not even really know if you're friends yet. I think these days our thoughts on that are different. Like you really only want to film videos with people you're kind of already friends with and know.
And I don't want to make new friends.
Well, it's hard these days, right? But yeah, and then I think we ended up at the Cheesecake Factory, which is, you know, it's so easy to become friends at the Cheesecake. It's the happiest place on earth.
Yeah, it's really good memories. And it's really sad, honestly, right now that we can't, like, there's no opportunity to see Safiya or our other YouTube friends because everyone's in quarantine. We're not leaving Canada. But we have talked to Safiya and Tyler a few times over FaceTime.
Yeah. It's good to keep up with your friends, even if you can't see them in real life.
Have a little video chat.
To answer the Cristine and Safiya aren't real friends Instagram account.
I should have DM'd her some evidence of us FaceTiming last week.
No, they're great. And I'm glad they're making content again. I know they took a long break, and Safiya talked a bit about why they weren't putting out content. I'd encourage you to read that. I found it was one of the most honest descriptions of kind of what it's like to be someone expected to produce YouTube content. And
she's a great writer and communicator. So that's why it's also like incredibly valuable, I think, to read what she wrote.
Yeah, her and Tyler are just very smart and, more importantly, good people. And we like them a lot. She described getting big on YouTube quickly as, you know, like the channel was like a horse and she was getting dragged behind it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like such a good metaphor, because I think you kind of had a similar experience that early on when things started blowing up and like the Polish Mountain thing happened for you. You just sort of go on autopilot, and it's almost like you're just trying to follow this like trail of success laid out in front of you, and you don't really stop to think about what you're doing so much. And then only when you start settling down, and like you kind of get in your head after that, once things settle down, and instead of just being in the mode of just like, I need to make stuff, I think that's when you start to have more of the issues of thinking about what you really want to do and if you even like it anymore.
It's a train that once you get on, you can't get off.
Well,
until you crash, but then you just get back on.
Okay, next question. What's your favorite VidCon experience? From Simply Nope.
Elise.
I think Elise, also known as Cristine's Charm. So we know Elise. You brought this girl on stage.
I
at
know
VidCon.
her. Not the profile pic, because that's me.
That's you.
But this girl, Elise, I know her from VidCon because we brought her on stage. It was part of like a, can we paint a fan's nails on stage?
Yeah, like during a Q&A, you painted your nails on stage. I think originally we thought that could be a video, and then we decided, like, let's just do it for fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was really fun. I think that was the year that Holo Taco launched, so it must have been last VidCon, because I remember it was like the launch package, right?
Yeah.
The launch collection set that I was using.
Which might be the last time we ever go to VidCon in this new new world.
VidCon this year was canceled.
It was like digital only or something.
Sure, yeah.
I should say we were already having a bit of weird mixed feelings about VidCon, which I think a lot of other creators do. I think we've always loved it as an opportunity to put like faces to some of these names and to actually facilitate having some meet and greets and fan interactions. And it's kind of sad that it doesn't seem like that will be able to happen anytime soon. But I know with VidCon, and I know like other creators feel this way too, it's always been a bit of a strange thing where like VidCon used to feel very much like a community event. And it wasn't even necessarily the most like popular creators being invited to it. It was, you know, they cared about not inviting problematic figures, and they were often just re-inviting back people who had been there since the beginning. So like these legacy creators, even if they weren't really getting the views that they used to, right? And then, you know, I think a lot of people were always willing to go to VidCon. This is the biggest convention for YouTubers in the world, in case there's anyone out there who doesn't know what this is.
Yeah, like 30,000 or something people would attend.
I think way more than that.
I thought it was like 35,000.
Crazy numbers of people would go. Anyway, but yeah, I guess as those numbers started getting disclosed and we started realizing how much money they were making off of it, and then the two YouTubers who founded VidCon sold it to Viacom for, I don't know if the actual number leaked, but like the reports suggested that they had made like hundreds of millions of dollars off of selling it. And I think a lot of YouTubers were thinking like, we go to this event for free. Like, yeah, they put you in a hotel room and maybe they'll fly you out or something. But it's this organization like making a bunch of money off of your fans' interest in meeting you. You're not getting paid to do it. And then they turned around and sold it for like an insane amount of money. I think a lot of YouTubers sort of scratched their heads after that happened and realized there was something kind of strange about the arrangement. And maybe more so for us. So this last year we went to VidCon, which was 2019? Is that what it was? So we noticed like this was the first year it was being run since it was bought by Viacom.
Thinking like more corporate? Yeah.
It felt more corporate, but maybe I think the thing that rubbed me the wrong way is, so like Tana Mongeau was there filming her MTV reality show. And it just struck me that like if the excuse used to be that this is a more community event and all about like meeting your fans and your YouTube community, and that's why you're not getting paid to be there, when all of a sudden they're rolling out the red carpet for like Jake Paul and Tana Mongeau to be there, who are just like awful people and terrible influences, I think it made a bunch of creators think like, do I want to be associated with this event anymore?
Yeah.
And I think in 2020, or however they continue to do VidCon moving forward, I don't know if it's completely off the table for us. Like there are international ones we were considering doing just because it would have been an opportunity to meet some of your fans in London or Australia even. But the idea of going back to VidCon now just, it feels a little strange at this point. I'm not sure if it's something you'd really want to do.
I remember feeling, in addition to just more generally corporate, that there was so many like different brands that were just constantly hounding me everyone else, every other creator who was there. Like they wanted to set up meetings, they wanted to get you here, they were like coming up to you while you're trying to eat or while you're backstage, giving you their card. And for me, who's very much on the like, I just want to stick to my like independent little show here with like no manager, no nothing. Like I don't really want your shit. It was really overwhelming, and it felt like it was being shoved down my throat far more than it had in previous years. And that stuff, like, it bothers me. It gives me like anxiety to have these salesmen basically just coming up to me, telling me how to grow my channel if I sign with them.
I should say though, like if you're an emerging YouTuber just, starting to grow your channel, there is a lot of opportunity there to network at VidCon. And that might be like the best thing you get out of it. But I know for you...
For me, it just made me anxious.
Yeah, we were going there because you wanted to do meet and greets.
I wanted to talk to my fans and like see my YouTube friends. That's why I go to VidCon.
Yeah.
I don't go to VidCon because I want to be poached by some agency.
Like even the panels would make you nervous, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why we'd always like request, like one year we just did a panel with Red Banger. And then the next year, I think you did one with Safiya. So yeah, for you, it was more about just like hanging out with your friends and meeting your fans as much as possible. And it was hard. Like we had to pay for our own security there so we could go out on the floor and meet people
out
on
Holo
the
Taco
convention
booth.
floor.
Yeah.
Whereas most people, I guess, aren't really doing that. And you're not allowed to just walk around and meet people, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to do more meet and greets than just the usual one that VidCon supplies you with, which is that like for 2 hours, you'll meet a maximum of 250 people because that's where they just cap it off.
Yeah, and they're just ushering them through.
Yeah, and they usher them through. But I wanted to do more than that. So the last VidCon, we had the Holo Taco booth and we paid for additional security. So I was allowed to be on the floor, or else they said I wasn't allowed. Mm-hmm. And that's where I met way more of you, honestly, was through our own, like, setting this up, basically to have a couple more meet and greets. And for me, that's the best part of VidCon, is meeting you guys, like, and especially putting the face to some people, like some of these fan accounts. And that's been incredible because I have met a couple of you and I remember. And that's really cool because I can just like think back to remembering this person and or they have a picture of us and they'll like tweet it to me and I'll be like, oh my God, I remember. Yeah. Like, it's so cool. So that's why I like VidCon. And you guys know this about me already. I'm generally anxious and I don't like giant crowds. So the fact that I have been willing to go to VidCon and have wanted to genuinely for the past 4 years was ultimately to meet fans and do meet and greets. And I much prefer meet and greets than like sitting on stage and performing in front of people.
Yeah.
So that's my style. I'd rather meet you guys one-on-one, like take pictures, sign your holo something, whatever, and just like say hi rather than putting on a show, because I don't really feel like I'm an entertainer. And I also, maybe you think I am, but I don't enjoy it either, which I guess is the bigger
just getting
point.
On stage in front of crowds of people.
I just like don't really know what to say. So that's why I painted Elise's nails in front of like a few hundred people because I thought that was entertaining and in some ways just like was more fun for me to focus on like painting someone's nails because that's all I know how to do. What am I going to do? Tell jokes? I can't do that live.
Well, that's like when you have people, you used to get a bunch of emails from certain MCNs or other companies asking if you would go on tour.
On tour, yeah.
And our reply would be like, what do you think she would do on tour? And I remember one time the guy was super honest. He's like, it doesn't really matter. The kids will just pay to see these people. And we were like, that's terrible, man. Like, we don't want to just take people's money and just like throw you on stage.
There. Yeah.
Yeah, not impressed. And there's definitely people who have done tours where it's like, what are they? It's not like they're performers.
Not all entertainers are
entertaining. I do just want to say one nice thing about VidCon, just so we're not negative. Our experience with the staff there was always super positive.
Yeah. And
specifically on the security thing. Like, I know a lot of people complain that it was hard to walk around and meet fans, but it really is because they've invested a lot in keeping people safe there. And that is really important.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
And I remember we'd always have this experience where like at the end of VidCon, we'd just be talking to some of the volunteers and some of the organizers, and they'd always be really nice to us. And a few of them like it was strange. A couple of them would say like, thank you guys for being so low maintenance, or like they would thank you for being so easy to work with. And we would always leave there wondering like, what are other people requesting that
we're not doing, like,
like
private
what are they
limos?
demanding?
I don't understand.
Yeah, I have no idea. Maybe other people were getting paid and we just didn't know it. But most of the people we talked to, like, no one was getting. Maybe if you're David Dobrik, you're getting paid to be a VidCon. I don't know, but I don't think so. I don't really think they were paying anyone.
Yeah, I never went to VidCon for the money because there is none.
There is no. All right, that was just sort of unloaded about VidCon.
All right, next question.
But yeah, the favorite thing was clearly just getting to
meeting
you
guys and seeing my YouTube friends. Yeah.
All right, from Simply Nailogical, how did you learn to edit videos so well?
I edit them well? Is that...
Yeah, that's a subjective thing. But how did you learn to edit videos?
Yeah, good question. So when I first started making videos, they were only for Instagram, which had to be a square.
Yeah.
And then I started posting those on YouTube because I just posted like a longer version. I used iMovie when I first started, which is a software that everyone has installed if you have a Mac. Like it just comes with
free
it
on your computer. Yeah.
And I knew absolutely nothing about iMovie. I used to use Windows Movie Maker in high school when I did edit some videos. I think I've talked about that
like
before.
Class projects,
for like class
right?
projects, or But in terms of starting YouTube, like I was starting from scratch. I didn't have a friend or someone show me how to make YouTube videos. I just figured it out myself by Googling, finding iMovie forums about how to do things. Like when I would look up, how do I do a crossfade transition? Just Google it. And then I watched a lot of YouTube videos.
Yeah, honestly, just watching YouTube videos of other people editing, there's some great tutorials out there.
That's also how I learned photography, just the basics of photography. So I didn't know anything about aperture, shutter speed, or ISO, which are like the three main functions on a DSLR camera. 'Cause I have no experience in photography. And I watched a bunch of YouTube videos to understand it so I could take better pictures and videos of my nails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so YouTube's a great resource. And I'd just say like some of the software out there now is really good at holding your hand. Some of these editing software, some of the free ones. If you're just doing like very basic editing, it's actually kind of shocking how easy it is if you just sort of play around and if you're just a generally comfortable with computer software
There's
person.
way more things these days that are also apps for your phone that I think make it a lot easier. When I had started doing this, that wasn't really the case. Although everyone still asked me, what app are you using? And the truth was I never use an app. I always just use my computer. But I used iMovie when I started, which I think is pretty easy and user-friendly. And if you look back at some of my very original videos, the screen resolution size is like wrong. Like it doesn't fit the traditional 1080 by 720, like the
like
rectangle.
Your first YouTube videos aren't
it's
right
like
ratio.
It's like shorter, like closer to a square, because I was making it for Instagram, but then I didn't know how to change it.
Yeah.
And so the screen resolution was also like decreased in quality too. It was being compressed because I just didn't understand how to change the settings. So for a while, like my older videos are just shittier quality or just not done well. But honestly, for me, it was trial and error and just making the mistakes a few times and then realizing like this isn't right, or someone would point out something and then I would look it up and try and make it better for next time. So I would tell people who are trying to be content creators maybe now is to not be discouraged if like your first couple videos aren't looking perfect, because you have to do them to learn from them and to see how maybe people have some suggestions, which I definitely learned from people commenting on my videos. Like, why are you posting in a square when it could be like bigger on YouTube? That makes no sense.
I also think people kind of sometimes prioritize too much like the technical aspect of things from like an editing and filming perspective, whereas like maybe if you're a tech reviewer and you're talking about like some 4K or 8K camera, like if you're a Marquez Brownlee type guy, it makes sense that his videos look amazing and polished and everything looks perfect. But for most creators, your content doesn't need to look like the perfect studio lit space and like the amazing cinematic cameras.
You don't need $2,000 worth of lighting to start your YouTube channel.
Like if anything, it puts you in another box. Whereas if you're just like get a point and shoot Canon G7X, like and just vlog it, or if you're like a Joanna Sadia type who just like she's not using some amazing camera, it's more about the storytelling and it gives it a more like authentic feeling of this is just some person in their house vlogging when you aren't filming it on a $10,000 camera with amazing lights in your room, you know?
Even nail videos, I notice a lot of Instagram accounts or smaller YouTubers are just using their iPhones.
Yeah.
And honestly, the quality is great these days.
Cell phone cameras today are amazing. It's insane.
But just to finish this off, to come to more current, is I started on iMovie 5 years ago. 2 years after that, maybe I started using Final Cut Pro, which is another Mac software.
Yeah.
It's pretty commonly available. You have to pay for it, but it's something that a lot of video editors, content creators use. I don't think it's that advanced. It's like the advanced version of iMovie, but it's definitely not the most advanced editing software out there. There's far more professional softwares out there that honestly I don't feel like I need.
Well, no, Final Cut is used by a lot of professionals. I don't want to undersell it, but it's just one of those things that it's accessible to people who maybe aren't experts, but it has a bunch of features that a lot of people will just never use in it as well, I think.
Yeah, it's possible. But I'm even learning now. Like I've been using more keyframes to fade out backgrounds when I'm making some of the Holo Taco spills. I started learning like to do that more, to do a better job at that, like in the last 6 months.
Yeah, and the truth is, you learn to do something if you enjoy doing it, right? And you genuinely enjoy editing videos, and that's why you've never hired like an outside editor or anything like that either.
Yeah, good point. I don't have an editor. I edit all my videos, the podcast videos, the Holo Taco videos. It's all me. However, Ben does help me. He loads all the footage. Like when we shoot a Simply video, he'll load all the footage because there's maybe 3 camera angles. There's an audio track. He has to sync up the audio with the video, and that just helps me honestly because that takes a lot of work, right? Like how long do you spend doing that kind of pre-edit?
Yeah, so I'll basically line up the tracks. I'll take out like the obviously
The garbage.
bad takes or like the blank space, and try to condense it so you just can do the more creative editing at that point. But I'll spend a good few hours on a video just preparing it for you to then do all the sort of creative editing that makes a Simply Nailogical video feel like a Simply Nailogical video.
I can't even imagine other people putting words over my head. Imagine I let you edit one of my videos and you just put words over my head. What would you write, Ben?
Well, it depends on the content, right? Well, what would I write?
Hummus.
I've written little messages to you when I'm pre-editing videos
You have?
before. Little
They're
cute
just
messages.
for me, not for
just
the
for you,
video.
not to include. But I'd say hiring an editor isn't necessarily a bad thing. It makes sense for a lot of people. You spend a ton of time editing videos that if you didn't have to, you would have more time to make content, right? But I would say for someone like you, your editing style is a big part of what makes your videos. Whereas if you're Rosanna Pansino cooking, just showing how to bake cookies, and the editing is just trying to look nice and clean and so people can clearly see what you're doing, she doesn't need to personally be editing that video. It makes sense that someone like her or someone in a similar position is just hiring outside editors.
Yeah.
So I get it. It really depends on you. I don't want to put out this idea that like having an editor is a terrible, inauthentic thing.
No, I think it makes sense for a lot of channels.
But for someone like you or like Emma Chamberlain has that super unique style of editing videos, and she talks about how much time she spends editing, I think you would notice if she wasn't editing her videos anymore.
Yeah. And that's how I feel about mine too. So
yeah. Next question. Does Ben edit for you sometimes?
Oh.
Only to the extent that I like might prepare footage for you to then edit, right?
Yeah.
Like we just said. From Simply Holosexuals.
Sip.
Hi. So I heard you don't like your fans calling themselves holosexuals anymore. So what do you suggest? Because I don't want my username to make you or anyone uncomfortable. That is very thoughtful of this person. Do you want to just recap what you said? So you recently, when you announced the Rainbow Collection, I guess, or around that time.
I made a recreation of my American Pride nails.
That's right.
Which I'd done several years ago when I first showed my face, I think, on YouTube. And I redid that nail art. And in that video, I also just explained to people why I wasn't really using the term holosexual anymore and why you haven't heard me say it for years.
Yeah. So do you want to recap just at a high level what your thought process is there?
Yeah. So I just feel that it is possible, and I have seen some evidence of some people being hurt by that term. And I think most of that comes from one time I made a joke about how I was coming out as holosexual. And that might have been around the time we had holosexual merch. So I was wearing it. And it is a joke that I made. And I didn't realize it at the time. It was like a few years later that I started seeing people point that out. That can be very hurtful. And I absolutely understand why it is, because it's making light of a real hard experience that might be the case for someone coming out in the LGBTQ plus community. And that's not something I ever want to make fun of or make someone feel hurt by pretending I'm coming out as homosexual. So when I realized that, it just made me not want to use the word or term at all, even though I've also seen on the flip side comments under my video where I recently expressed this, people, including people from the LGBTQ plus community, or so they said they were, that they didn't find the term in and of itself to be hurtful. They just thought it was like a fun, playful way to express your love for holo, as long as you're not turning it into, you know, a joke about coming out.
Yeah, like we really looked at the comments and we really kind of dug deep to try to figure out, like, is this a really terrible thing, right? And I think overwhelmingly people sort of understood it for what it was, as like a lighthearted joke. Like back in 2016 when you were getting popular, your fans started calling themselves this because like a joke on your channel was like you loved holographic nail polish so much, or just holo so much, that like it's almost like you were sexually attracted to it. Yeah. So that was the joke. I think people knew where you were coming from, and clearly your intent was never to make light of a situation like having to come out to your parents as gay or something like that. Yeah. And I think what we saw in the comments when you really talked about this in that video was, a lot of people who said they were in the LGBTQ plus community, I think there was a pretty clear consensus that it wasn't the term that was offensive, but that, it could be insensitive to make jokes about coming out as holosexual or something like that. So like, we're not the language police. We're not going to tell people what words they should or shouldn't use. But I would say we would discourage people from making jokes like that. But I don't think I would tell someone like this that they can't keep the username holosexual, because I think most people see it for what it is, which is just sort of a joke about loving holo so much that you're attracted to it.
And I think it's just a broader point is to remember to be respectful online. And if someone is hurt by something, don't undermine them. Don't tell them they're not hurt by it either. So just be respectful when you're talking to other people. And that's kind of just the bottom line for everything to remember on the internet when you're interacting with people.
Your intent using that term isn't to hurt people's feelings. And I think that's important to remember. And like you said, like just being respectful of people in general, no matter what language you're using. Yeah,
but simply holosexuals, I'm sure you don't have any ill intent with your page. So I don't, dislike fans whose accounts are named that. I don't want you guys to think that either. Like, it's fine.
Do you want to, this is a tangent, but do you remember when we tried to trademark the term holosexual? Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about? So I guess way back in the day, I think we were mostly concerned that we might start seeing big nail polish companies use some of the terms you popularized, and we saw some evidence of this, right? Yeah. And we didn't know at the time whether you'd have a nail polish line or not, but we thought it was maybe a possibility. So we started trademark applications for some of your more common phrases and sayings, and like some of the terms that are clearly associated with you, like holosexual, holo queen, things like that. But when we tried to get holosexual, back when that was a term that was more used in your community, like at this point, I just don't think we would use it enough that I don't think we would really pursue it. But we tried to put in a trademark application for it, and there's the chance for like other companies to basically contest your trademark. And there's a company that didn't want us to get the holosexual trademark because they had a perfume line called Sexuel. Yeah. So they were arguing that perfume is close enough to nail polish, and that they own the word sexual, which is within the word holosexual. So they were trying to prevent us from being able to protect, the use of the word holosexual on nail polish.
In English, in the 90s, someone gave them the legal right to the word sexual. So they own the word sexual as a trademark.
Well, you have to say for what.
Yeah,
so they said for perfume.
For perfume, yeah.
And I guess they were arguing that perfume is close enough to nail polish. Because it's one of those things that sounds ridiculous. But think of like Apple computers, right? Mm-hmm. They own the word Apple when it comes to computers. So you couldn't have another computer company call themselves Crab Apple.
Yeah.
Because that would just be too confusing, and Crab Apple might benefit from the fact that Apple computers has a lot of goodwill and reputation in the word Apple in association with computers.
But Crab Apple, as a term in of itself, is centered around an apple just being bad, right? Whereas holosexual is not centered around sexual being hollow. It's like a whole new term on its own, right? Like holosexual is a completely different meaning. Yeah, but you could say it's contained
with... Anyway, I had all these arguments with our lawyer, and honestly, we came close to pursuing it as a... It almost escalated to legal proceedings because we cared a lot at the time. And I think eventually we just sort of realized, is this really a term we were going to put on things like nail polish in the future? Probably not. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. But like these people had a history of actually suing people who tried to put the word sexual on things. And it was crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because like if we put holosexual on a product and sold it, that we're not benefiting from the fact that there's some obscure perfume company somewhere that owns the word sexual.
Right.
This is just a good example of how trademark law is kind of broken, I think.
It's kind of ancient. It doesn't really work well in the age of social media. That's the other thing. Because it doesn't contemplate, like, what if you use these words in a description for something on an e-commerce website? Is that trademark infringement?
Yeah, good point.
I don't really know because it's not on a product.
And then also, like, these internet sayings, like, we had that run-in with Bath and Body Works when they put "Hello, it's me" on like a bottle of hand sanitizer. Mm-hmm. And we were like, clearly you were known for saying "Hello, it's me." We had a bunch of fans saying, "Hey, I just bought this hand sanitizer because they thought like you were associated with them." Yeah. And like that is like clear evidence of they're creating confusion in the marketplace, right? So I remember like we had to talk to them through lawyers and all sorts of weird things. And
maybe we could have another podcast
just on trademark. I don't know how interesting this is to people.
Comment down below if that is at the least bit interesting to you. Ben would be very happy if it is.
I could go on all day. From Christine's Mikey, why is Cristine obsessed with tea?
Because it's just so oh, hello, it's beeping. It's so delicious.
I mean, have you always been a tea drinker, Cristine?
No, actually.
No.
Do you want to sip in? Do you want to dip into my past here?
Sure.
So when I was 15, I got addicted to coffee.
Really?
True story. Yeah, I'm not being
I didn't know this.
Yeah, I'm sure I've told you. But I worked at my dad's car shop. Uh-huh. And they would order 4 cups of coffee a day, like just to break up the day, I guess. That's what people in car shops do. They go for coffee 4 times, sure. At least where I grew up. So I would always get a coffee when I was 15 years old, which is like weird and probably not really the healthiest. That's why I'm so short. So I'm 5'4". And I drank so much of it for maybe like a year of my life. And then I got so sick of it, I never wanted it again. Then I grew up and went to university, and everyone's drinking coffee. And that's kind of like where you first normally learn how to drink coffee is like university age-ish.
Yeah, and that's
because
part
you're,
of that,
you're
like,
up all night.
university culture of,
Yeah, you're up all night partying, and then you got to have your cup of coffee before you write your exam. Like, that's the culture. So I hated coffee, but I wanted to order something to fit in. But I didn't order tea yet. Because it was so boring and bland to me. I know, blasphemy, I know. Terrible. But at the time, I was like, it tastes like hay water. It tastes like nothing.
What?
Don't worry, this story will have a twist.
Okay.
And so instead, I ordered like fancy vanilla creme frappuccinos or peppermint hot chocolate or like something.
Like milkshakes.
Basically, sugar and milk is what I ordered. Or chocolate. And then over time... it became clear that was not a healthy choice because I was doing that every day and sometimes multiple times a day, you know, with my friends who were going for coffee or lattes. And here I am ordering like a kid's peppermint hot chocolate.
Frappuccino.
Yeah. And I realized later that wasn't good for me. I was consuming so much sugar and I was drinking it rather than like, you know, eating it in dessert, which is fine. But why would you drink all that sugar? It didn't make sense at a certain point, and I realized it just wasn't good for me. So I made the decision to just cut all of that out and that I wasn't going to drink my sugar. So I decided, well, okay, I need something to drink, to sip on. Yeah, otherwise, like, what am I doing when I, have a story to tell and I need to sip some, tea?
Sure.
So I learned to drink tea. But at the beginning, I thought it was bland and I could only have it with a little bit of milk. So I'd have milk or almond milk or whatever type of milk because I couldn't stand just the plain tea. And then over time, I learned that there was different types of tea. So there wasn't just black tea. There was green tea, rooibos tea, oolong tea, white tea, fruit infusion tea. And then you could experiment with different types of milk. Like not just 1 or 2% milk, but oat milk and coconut milk and almond milk. Yeah. And I started realizing that there was a whole other world of like flavored tea out there. And I slowly grew the taste for tea and appreciation for the hundreds of different flavors and like types of tea and how you could make them taste good with just a little bit of milk. So fun fact, I don't drink any tea without any milk, whether it's real dairy milk or a milk substitute. I can't have tea without something, just like a little bit, just like half an inch.
Wow, we just got like a whole tea origin, superhero origin
I've
story.
I've heard people
here.
ask for an entire podcast on tea, so there you have it. We'll make that a highlights clip.
That is interesting. Like you love tea now, but you took you a while to get into it.
Yeah, to get into it. So I encourage you, even if you think it's not for you, it very well could be. You just gotta
give tea a chance.
Give tea a chance. Take your time, explore all your options, and it might be the right fit for you. Not sponsored by tea.
All right, next question. What is the most memorable meme you've seen of yourself?
I like her profile pic. It's me spreading the fake hollow all over my head.
That's right. I remember that.
There's so many, but the first one that comes to mind is me sitting in the glitter coffin, and it says like Cristine and then nail art to imply that like nail art is dead. That one always sticks out to me.
Lots of memes about you not doing nail art anymore. There's memes of you calling for me to get you tea. Do you remember like the seagull meme?
Yeah,
do you know what I'm talking about? Like the seagull like is inhaling and then just screaming. Yeah.
That one's really good. I love that one. So on brand, so on point.
Yeah. All right, next question from Christine's Cup of Tea. Will you ever do a house tour?
A house tour? You guys have seen most of this house.
I mean, like if it makes sense for a video, we're not reluctant to like show a room of the house. It's not that interesting, but like we're not gonna take a camera around and be like, look at this bathroom and look at how I decorated my closet. That just doesn't really make sense, right?
I think there's two main reasons why I haven't and probably won't do a house tour. The first is I don't really care to show off my shit. Like, I mean, if I show you my tea collection or my nail polish behind my wall, it's because it's just one room that I think you may find interesting. But will you find like my garage or the cars we might drive or my backyard or the entryway to my house and like all these, an extra bedroom? Like, why am I showing you this? It just doesn't, I don't really care to show off about my house. And then the other more important reason I think is just for privacy and security. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, as someone with a lot of followers on the internet, you do have to think about these things. So I don't think it would be smart for me to put a house tour online where you can see where the front door is in relation to the bedroom, in relation to the garage, and all these like potential access points that might give away where we live or give away like a way that you could break in or what other possessions we might have that aren't already obvious.
Yeah, no, it's too bad, but we do have to think about things like this. I think the biggest thing is just not showing the outside of your house.
Yeah, but people do house tours all the time without showing the outside, but it still really gives people a really good idea of how you would get around their house, and then they can just go on the internet and find out where they live through other sources. So I still don't think it's smart to give people a complete blueprint, basically, of your place. Yeah.
Not the floor plans, anyway.
Well, basically.
All right. Next question from Simply Nailogical. Is your holographic will actually legally true?
I don't know.
Or I guess valid.
Ask the lawyers.
So if people don't remember, you did a Simply Nailogical video, must have been 3 years ago, where you did like an arts and craft will and you decorated it with like hollow glitter paper and stuff, right?
And I called it my holographic will because that is a legal term.
Yeah, so in Canada, a holographic will just means a handwritten will. And this basically exists in the law. I think there's some landmark cases where, like, if someone was dying unexpectedly and just wanted to quickly write up a will, as long as it's handwritten, signed, and dated, there's a few like qualifications for what would make it a legally valid will. And maybe you just want to quickly write, please give everything to my wife so the government doesn't take it, or she doesn't have to pay a bunch of taxes and fees on it that might normally have to be paid or whatever. But so like technically, I think you met the criteria of what is a legal, valid holographic will in that video.
And it was holographic.
And it was holographic, and which is insane because you wrote a bunch of crazy stuff on there. And I don't want to be too specific or talk about our situation now, but like for a while, that was the only thing you had resembling a will. Or
so
like
if I died, I think Jenna Marbles would have gotten my cats, or I don't even remember what I wrote.
So it's all sorts of crazy stuff. And yeah, like I would have, I guess if I survived in this situation, I would have been like, no, I need the cats.
Oh my God.
It's fun to think about. When we bought a house together, that's when I think we started, you have to think about wills and things like that, you know?
Yeah. So my holographic will is no longer valid.
No longer, but it was.
But it was,
It really,
technically.
it was the closest thing you had to a will for a long time, which is insane.
Imagine I'd actually died. Big YouTuber
I don't wanna
dies, has
think about
holographic will, gives cats to Jenna Marbles.
All right, and last question from SimplyPodLogical.
You know we had to include one of those.
Yeah, any future plans for Holo Taco you want to share, Cristine?
Tea.
Okay, so the multi-chrome collection just came out.
Oh yeah, you guys know this now. I'm always so used to being like sneaky.
You're so good at spilling the beans. Do you want to
Yeah.
just tell people something?
Okay, so next year we're doing. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, we do know all the way to
Yeah,
at least until
like
next fall.
summer, fall.
Yeah, there's some
Something
things
like
up
that,
in the air, but you really do have to plan these things months and months in advance.
So, but I'll just speak more generally because I think
Mm-hmm.
some of this is obvious, like things that you know I want to do. So for the first year, I really wanted to just establish fundamental formulas. So that's like the linear Holo Taco formula, which you guys have loved, and I would love to repeat that in just a different color scheme. Hint, hint, hint.
Yeah, we're paying attention
That's
to
a
what
very
formulas people
that's
like.
a favorite formula. People love the coverage on that, and it's just like super hollow. Wonderful. And now we have multi-chrome, which is another fundamental that I absolutely like needed, that we needed like solid multi-chromes. And we have toppers and unicorn skins, which are fundamental toppers, of course. Ben's like nodding his head like, sure,
yes.
Cristine. But there's more room to grow there because there's other different colors of unicorn skins. Right now we only have 3.
Sure.
There's also not unicorn skins, but like unicorn shimmers. That's something else I want to build on. And then we have other types of base finishes, maybe some more cremes. I know we've all, like what was more important to me.
You can't just say everything.
I'm not
People
saying
won't know what to
everything,
expect.
but like one coat black and not milky white were like staples, essentials that I had to have in year 1, right?
Yeah.
But year 2 and 3, I'm thinking of introducing some other colors. And some more fundamental finishes, like maybe some metallics.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay, you need to stop.
Am I saying too
You're
much,
saying
Ben?
Too much.
Okay. Sorry, Simply Too Logical. Ben has cut me off.
Well, you just said like 7 things. A lot of these things, like we know we want to do, or you know you want them to be part of it at some point. Some of these things are actively being worked on, and other things are a little bit more on the back burner and like that sort of wish list, right?
Yeah, let me just be clear. We're not coming out with all of this next month.
Yeah.
It takes a really long time to develop these and to get it right? So,
Yeah. So there's definitely things we wish could already be out that have taken a little longer than we wanted because you're going through like testing and you want to make sure it's exactly how you want it. And like we notice the things people want and ask for, and it really does help when people comment like what they want more of.
Oh, yeah.
When people really love the linear hollow formula, that absolutely influenced our decisions on whether or not it would make sense to have another linear hollow formula in the future, right? So things like that, and the fact that we can see that people are searching for nail oil on the website tells us that people want nail oil.
And you guys already know I've been testing that, working on that for months. You've seen that in my snaps and stuff. Also something, I'm saying way too much, but I don't care.
We should stop.
I'm CEO of saying whatever I want. My birthday's coming up, so just saying. Might do something Holo Taco for my birthday, maybe. That's all I want for my birthday.
All right, Cristine, you're cut off.
Okay, what?
Apologies to Eva Gutowski. She was supposed to come on today, but we ran out of time. Sorry about that.
Is she a big fan? Is she a big fan account of me?
I think she runs most of these fan accounts, yeah.
Are you sure? Do you have fan accounts about her, Ben? I'm kind of thinking maybe you do.
No, what? But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. You just got your reminder that it was Taco Tuesday.
It's Taco Tuesday.
It is Taco Tuesday.
And thank you guys for all the multi-chrome love.
Yeah, that launch went very well. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to go play with my nails now.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next Taco Tuesday.
See y'all later.
See y'all later.
Bye.